Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I am Harrison Graham. We got some rumors to hit you guys with. Plus, later in the show, on this day in Mavs history, this happened. We'll talk about that in a second. But could Dallas sign Dillon Brooks this offseason? The Grizzlies are one game away from elimination, and I know the comments are going to be hot about this one because, let's just be honest, Dillon Brooks' behavior has been less than desirable for quite a while now, and especially in recent days and weeks. Here's Tim McMahon on Dillon Brooks. He says the Grizzlies have tried to move on from Dillon Brooks already. I don't know if Dillon Brooks is on this team after this series. I got to think if you're Memphis, you're changing things up, and you're not bringing Dillon Brooks back into the fold. I mean, the guy first of all, didn't have a good year offensively, less than 40% from the field, less than 33% from three. And then also, when you factor in that this guy called LeBron James old and says, I don't respect anybody until they drop 40 on my head, and then you've done nothing since then in this series, and all the Lakers have done is take a 3-1 commanding lead. It's like, you got to know your place in life. Listen, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm Scott Van Pelt. You know why? Because he's in a tier above me, multiple tiers above me in my career. I'm not going to act like I'm punching above my weight in that regard. Dillon Brooks acting like he can talk smack to LeBron James is equivalent to that. It's just not a good move. I don't get it whatsoever. And quite frankly, when it comes to the Mavs, I just don't want to deal with this guy. If he would shut the hell up, yeah, I think he's a decent 3-and-D guy, even though he didn't shoot the ball well this year, but he's just such a headache at this point. I don't know what his market will even end up being, if I'm being completely honest with you. What do you guys think? Should the Mavs sign Dillon Brooks? Coop, weigh in here while the folks type S for sign or P for pass. There's some appealing parts about his game, but I think the cons outweigh the pros.
I've been kind of wrestling with this all day. Would he be the best wing on the Mavs as we sit here right now?
Probably.
I think the answer is yes. But he talks way too much for me, and I don't think he's just good enough of a piece to move the needle to do what he does, and then for the Mavs to sign him to a multi-year deal. I'm not a fan.
How low would his market have to get to be like, all right, I mean, for that, we'll pay it like mid-level?
Yeah,
like,
I think that's what you're looking at. That's really what the Mavs have to work with, if they're going to re-sign Kyrie, which we'll get to later in the show. They're basically going to have the mid-level exception to work with as far as acquiring free agents go. So if he falls in that category, maybe.
His game, beyond the talking, is worthy of a mid-level exception, even though he had a down year shooting the basketball. It's just the talking.
It's the talking, and I don't think he takes smart shots. No. Yeah, he's not the worst shooter in the world like we showed you earlier, but I don't think he takes shots that you would call advised.
I can't get that Game 6 against the Warriors out of my head last year where he took like 35 shots. It's like, dude, no. You're not that dude. I get Ja was out, but as for sign, P for pass, I think Coop and I are almost certainly passing unless the contract just is very cheap. Join the family here on the channel. The Mavs season is over, but we're just getting started with our offseason coverage. Smash that subscribe button. As teams are eliminated, we'll talk about potential players that the Mavs could target, like a Dillon Brooks, here on this show, so don't miss any of it. It's youtube.com/MavsTV. Let's get to the latest on a player who's more likely to be here. That is Kyrie Irving, player who the Mavs traded for at the NBA trade deadline. According to Marc Stein, it kind of feels like Mavs are bust, at least when it comes to top market value. We'll explain that here in just a second. But Kyrie's partner in crime right now, Luka Doncic, you can get these sweet Luka t-shirts available at chatsports.com/Doncic. That link will be in the comments and in the description of this video. Show 77 some love. Type 77 in the comments. Go get his t-shirt, chatsports.com/Doncic. Here's Marc Stein on Kyrie and the Mavs. He says the Mavericks have to come up with a contract as a team-friendly as they can, but that doesn't leave Kyrie feeling as if he was shortchanged, and that's a really, really tough needle to thread. Who's coming after him? Where is the market for Kyrie Irving right now? I frankly don't see one at this point in time. So, Coop, based on that from Marc Stein, who's been tapped in with the Mavs and across the NBA for a long time now, it doesn't sound like there's going to be just teams lining up to give Kyrie Irving a max deal, and there's a variety of reasons for that. One, he's almost 30 now. He's had some injuries under his belt in his career. And two, while he didn't display any of it with the Mavericks, he obviously does have a history of rubbing people the wrong way with comments he makes. And, in Boston, he didn't appear to be a good teammate, at least publicly. We don't know what happened behind closed doors. But Stein does make a good point, too. If you're the Mavs, you also kind of have to just give him probably a pretty close to a max deal, I would think.
Yeah, the Mavs are basically going to be bidding against themselves, which is kind of a dangerous game, especially when you're the Mavericks, given how they've operated in the past.
Yeah.
But I think Kyrie, at the end of the day, will be a Maverick just for multiple reasons. Number one, I don't think the suitors that in free agency will be teams that he wants to go to. I think the teams that he would like to go to, like Phoenix with Kevin Durant, the Lakers with LeBron James, those teams don't have room to go sign Kyrie Irving unless they blow their entire roster up, and I don't see that happening. So here lies the Mavs, who have his bird rights, who have the opportunity to give him as much money as possible, and I think at the end of the day, that's what Kyrie's going to be looking for, is who's going to give him the most money. Now, do the Mavs offer him his max, which I believe is somewhere in the range of $275 to $300 million? I don't think he gets that, but does he get a 5-year for $200 million? Is it a 4-year for $200 million where he's making $50 a year? I think that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's unfortunately the Mavs have just screwed this up so many times. You're probably just going to have to pay him more than you want to, because you can't afford to what happened with Jalen Brunson to happen here. You'd rather overpay and keep him at this point, because if you lose Kyrie, then it's like, where do you go from there? I mean, it's like Luka and what? Like you're starting from scratch in a lot of regards.
If it were another organization, I would say my confidence level of re-signing Kyrie is like 95. But it is the Mavs, so I'm going to go ahead and say it's like at an 80 right now, just because I know the Mavs have propensity to screw kind of these kind of things up.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think they need Kyrie, and Kyrie needs the Mavs to work out in the future.
At least in terms of maxing out dollars, which you would think Kyrie would want to do one more time here on a big contract. So what do you guys think? Will the Mavs re-sign Kyrie Irving? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I'm with Coop. 8 out of 10 on the confidence meter. It should be 10 out of 10, but this is the Mavs we're talking about. So 8 out of 10, pretty confident, not insanely confident, but pretty confident overall. Let us know why for yes and for no. All right, Coop, take us through this on this day in Mavs history. This looks like that Mavs-Blazers 2011 series.
Yes. April 25th, 2011, Game 5. The Mavs took a 3-2 lead in this series. And for my money, I think this is the biggest game in Dallas Mavericks history, and here's why.
Well, they blew Game 4. I remember thinking, they're done.
They were up 2-0 in this series.
Yep.
They blew a 22-point lead in Game 4. If they don't win this game, the Mavs do not win that series because it goes back to Portland. And I don't know if Dirk Nowitzki's a Dallas Maverick his whole career. And I'm not sure they win a title with Dirk. So for my money, this is the most important game in Mavericks history, and thank God they won it, because if they didn't, who knows where this organization would be right now.
I mean, we complain about the shortcomings of this franchise. Had they not won it all that year, I mean, you want to talk about just underachieving.
It would have been a disaster beyond belief if they didn't win it that year.
Wow. And going back, I mean, that's really the most underrated part of that run, because they hammered the Lakers, swept them. They took care of OKC in 5 games? Then obviously, it also went 6 in the finals, but a pretty convincing 6-game series win. The Blazers really challenged them the most. I mean, they evened the series up at 2.
Brandon Roy went off in that Game 4.
The Mavs had a history of losing series that they should win before that. I mean, you could have come out tight as a drum in that Game 5. So to win that game, get back to 3-2, then close it out in 6, there's no doubt about it. That was a massive game in the history of this franchise. Drop your most important game, or just a game that you think is fun or that you remember most. Obviously, we're all going to remember Game 6 against the Miami Heat, but drop a game down in the comments that puts a smile on your face. This was certainly a big one in the history of the Mavs. Coop, any parting words on today's show?
Get it together, Mavs. We need a big offseason.
Wake up, Cuban.
Wake up.
Get to work.
Let's get it together.
Luka, go enjoy Cabo for another month.
Luka is over in Europe right now, I believe, watching some EuroLeague games. So
enjoy
he's already
that.
over there.
Take some time off, and let's hit that reset
Come back a stronger
button.
person.
All right, he's Coop. I'm Harrison. Appreciate the support. Hit the subscribe button. We will be back soon. Not sure when the next episode will be, because we got the NFL draft this week, but if we don't get one till later this week, we will work back to our normal schedule next week. Be on the lookout. Subscribe. Turn on the noties so you don't miss an episode here on Mavericks Today.
Peace.